Hello everyone and welcome back to Red Raptor Writes. Those who've watched my videos before already know that the original BioShock is my all-time favorite video game, and it always has been since it came to PS3 in 2008. I also think BioShock 2 is pretty good, Minerva's Den awesome, but Infinite and Burial both terrible. Now you have some context on my views going into this video. Great. A few weeks ago, Netflix announced that they are now making a BioShock movie, although we have no specifics further than that. With the track record of video game movies so far, it comes across as more of a threat than anything else. Honestly, I would have preferred an anthology-style Rapture series, but let's work with what we have. Just in case the creators do care about the finished product, rather than rushing a cheap cash grab, like recent films, here are 6 tips on how to make a BioShock movie work. But before we get started, let's take a look at a poll I put up a few days ago. As you can see, the vast majority of fans don't think Netflix can pull this off, whether it's their practices themselves or just the prospect of a video game movie going bad. But maybe we could fix that here today. So guys, let's dig this up. When approaching this project, there's only one clear option for where to go. Netflix needs to make a prequel to the original. Before I get into why, let's talk about why nothing else would work. They may try to do a straight adaptation of the first game.
Don't try it!
The BioShock story was completely tailored to suit the video game medium, providing meta commentary on how players lack free will, being limited to the confines of the game. When you get to the big "would you kindly" reveal, it resonates with us because, just like the player, Jack is an assassin who mindlessly follows orders to get to the next step. That's the joke. We're a player who can't make choices, playing as a puppet who can't make choices. You know, aside from the few Atlas and the devs throw at us. If Netflix adapted the first game, it would play off as a weird Ella Enchanted, and nobody wants that. Okay, how about adapting Infinite? If there is any good left in the world, a movie like that will never see the light of day. Well, alright, how about a new setting, like a tie-in to whatever happens in BioShock 3? Well, that one's more of a wild card since we have no idea what it'll even be about or how it will be received. Also, let's be real. Rapture, Big Daddies, Little Sisters, that's way too marketable for Netflix to pass up. The only real option is a prequel. And since we need that sweet nostalgia bait of Big Daddies with their gatherers, then the movie needs to take place during the Rapture Civil War. If it's during the Civil War, then the opening, of course, will show the 1958 New Year's Eve attacks. See Netflix, the film's already writing itself. Don't screw it up. Maybe it's just me, but it is kind of annoying that so many things just have to happen on this specific day to hit the nostalgia button. Atlas's bombings, Delta's death, pretty much all of Burial at Sea, and now this. Minerva's Den was good enough to not need a nostalgia button, but that's a video for another day. From here, give us the perspective of an everyman, someone who has that fish out of water vibe, so through the protagonist learning about the world, us audiences learn too. Then over time, whoever this guy or girl is gets more involved with either Ryan or Atlas in the war. Just because it's BioShock doesn't mean Netflix has to overcomplicate it. Do a prequel. Going off of that last point, there's a big bad habit that writers fall into when making a prequel. Sometimes they make the poor decision to explain or set up everything we saw in the original. So many unnecessary plot threads, callbacks, or Easter eggs are crammed in just to, once again, hit the nostalgia button.
So far away from your family, from your friends, from everything you ever loved. But for some reason, you like it here. You feel something. You can't quite put your finger on. Think about it for a second. And maybe the word will come to you. Nostalgia.
This is what I call prequelitis. Feeling the godforsaken need to shoehorn in favorite characters as well as extremely minor ones, showing stupid references to the first game, breaking the timeline just to show off some Rapture highlight moments, and forcing Elizabeth into Jack's story, breaking the main characters in the process. Needless to say, don't do this. Well, okay, A few unintrusive nods to the larger Rapture story are no big deal. The problems come when nostalgia is used as a crutch to make up for bad storytelling, and when the references get in the way of the story being told. Like if randomly in the middle of the Netflix film we're met with a Dr. Steinman detour that ruins the pacing. Another problem with this is that prequelitis really squishes the world into a few major moments, instead of interesting events and character growth happening over the course of a decade. It's all condensed down into a neat slideshow for audiences to follow, robbing the world of any intrigue whatsoever. Alright Netflix, if you can hold yourself back and continue to follow these steps, chances are you will make a massive hit with fans begging for more. Then just go anthology mode, find different Rapture stories to tell, and spread out the fan service naturally between multiple sequels. You'll get your shot, just be patient. Sprite is amazing, best drink ever invented. 1 ice cold glass a day is fine. Take an entire liter at once and you'll be sick. Same with the nostalgia. The setting of Rapture is one of the most iconic in gaming. If Netflix plays their cards right, it can jump to one of the most iconic in cinema too. There are many layers as to why it worked so well, but at the core, this was due to the relationship between Rapture, the story, and gameplay. BioShock's story and backstory set the scene, leaving the ruined dystopia for us to roam around. But elements of said dystopia, such as plasmids, played a huge role in the gameplay. Then, as you play the game, the story progresses, and so on, causing a loop. Yes, this is a movie, so of course us audiences won't be playing, but there's still something the filmmakers can do. My advice for them would be to integrate Rapture as much as possible, rather than letting it just be a backdrop. Let the characters splice, have factions slaughter each other, get Big Daddies to drill some fools, or something. Just show how the world affects them. Integrate all the horrors we only get a glimpse of in the games.
Leaks, lunatics, rebellion, and now bleeding ghosts. Ain't life in Rapture grand?
And to avoid confusion with my last point, I'm not saying to cram as much Rapture as they can down our throats, but to make this world really come to life. Thankfully, this ties right into my next point. Those older BioShock fans, those who were freely able to surf the ever-expanding internet back in 2007, probably remember that a film adaptation was in the works at Universal, with Gore Verbinski directing. During the 2000s, Pirates of the Caribbean was hot stuff, so he seemed like a fitting choice. One of the major controversies surrounding the old BioShock movie was the rating. Verbinski pushed for the obvious R rating, but Universal wanted a more marketable PG-13. Yeah, it seems like a scummy move to sell more tickets, but remember that during these talks, the Great Recession hit, so it was not the time to throw buttloads of money at an experimental project that might not sell. Yeah, we aren't living in any economic boom today either. Gas is $4.50 a gallon, but Netflix needs its adaptation to be R. Not like 50 Shades R, but mature enough that it won't need to constantly censor itself like Venom. The Rapture we know and love was not a happy place. Splicing really screws up a person's mind and body. A violent war rages on. Bodies should be lining the streets. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but Burial definitely messed up here, choosing to show a super clean, idealized interpretation. This city is not a beautiful place where you'd want to live, at least not at this time. Before Adam, maybe, but not during Shrekking New Year's Eve. In my opinion, the BioShock backstory cannot be properly explored without receiving an R rating. My final point neatly ties into the previous two. It's almost like I took the time to plan this video. Some heavy real-world topics are about to be addressed, so hear me out and try not to have your feathers ruffled. Please don't extrapolate any extra meanings that I don't explicitly say. Got it? Good. Netflix has a certain reputation when it comes to their messaging. Now, I don't really watch original Netflix stuff, aside from the super popular shows like Daredevil and Squid Game, so I can't say for myself, but there is a reputation of its writers making characters gay and woke for the sole purpose of having gay and woke characters. Netflix, don't. Control yourself. Of course, the thing about Rapture is that anyone useful enough to society can come and be great. Andrew Ryan created it specifically to leave the overbearing restrictions of the surface. So, homosexuality, transgenderism, transracialism, and all that jazz were totally accepted as long as such individuals were productive. Take Sander Cohen for instance. He's obviously homosexual in the original game, yet Ryan loved his artistic vision. It definitely helped that Cohen churned out propaganda for him, but hey, same difference. While all this is true, BioShock and its setting were not celebrations of gay culture or current social justice movements. If you've played this masterpiece and that was your takeaway, it's probably because your mommy drank while pregnant. The main theme of BioShock, BioShock 2, and Minerva's Den is the flawed nature of humanity. What even is humanity? Andrew Ryan built a city that glorifies human nature and individuality, believing that once unshackled by the big institutions of the surface, mankind will thrive. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. The lack of restraint allowed Rapture to tear itself apart, leading to the ruins we come across. If the Netflix movie starts celebrating gay culture, then that becomes a celebration of Rapture culture, which was 100% not the goal of the game. So no, BioShock isn't some celebration of humanism, secularism, or moral subjectivism. Actually, it's pretty much the opposite, a warning for how corrupt we can be when left unchecked.
What makes something like me? I look at genes all day long, and never do I see the blueprints of sin. I could blame the Germans, but in truth I did not find tormentors in the prison camp, but kindred spirits.
Also, these final 2 points should be obvious, but apparently not. Don't turn Andrew Ryan into a Donald Trump allegory. It's been done before and always comes across as so cheesy and on the nose. In this instance, they're two completely different men with vastly differing ideologies. Ryan follows the super libertarian objectivism from 20th century author Ayn Rand. Trump believes in modern conservative populism. Don't try it. And don't use Atlas's Rebellion for some economic justice social propaganda. Frank Fontaine is a criminal mastermind who takes advantage of the poor to meet his own needs. His return as Atlas is a scam, not to be taken as a real-life empowerment symbol. Pretty much any competent studio would avoid these mistakes, but competence is in really short supply these days. If Netflix uses the BioShock movie to push an SJW message, then they failed. If they don't understand the real central theme, then they failed. Well guys, those are 5 easy steps for Netflix to make a great BioShock movie. Some do's, some don'ts, some third rails. Good video game movies are pretty much non-existent, so I don't want to see my favorite work of fiction end up as another corpse on the wall. Hopefully the filmmakers will take some of the advice here to make a title that lives up to its name. And if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to see them. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to please leave a like, subscribe, and check out my social media. See you next time.